Hey everybody, Dave Mustaine over here at Next Level Guitar. How you doing? We're going to have a really fun Inspired By lesson today. And what's going to be cool about this, a fantastic artist, of course, leader of a really legendary band. But what's going to be great about this Inspired By is we're going to take a little bit more of a riff approach, and we're going to do some cool lead work as well. But we're going to think about how you can spice up some of your metal riffs with different intervals, things you might not typically think of, and a way to use thirds and things like that. So let's take a look at this. We're going to be in the key of E here, or E minor. Now, a lot of this is going to be really keeping your right hand on fire today and keeping it really warmed up. So let's talk about ways that we could do that and some of the dynamic with palm muting that's going to be crucial for some people that may not do a lot of this, or even for some of you more advanced students. So if I'm going like this and I'm doing straight downstrokes, I have to mention this because sometimes we have floating tail pieces and things that'll move around on us. If we bonk the string too hard, you really get a dipping kind of effect out of it. Actually, that didn't happen, which is kind of cool. But if I hit it too hard, it'll tend to float, and we want to watch out for that because sometimes when we do these things, if our stamina runs out a little bit, we'll get a little heavy with our hand, and we want to watch out for that. So a good part of this technique is going to be coming from the fact that I'm going to have my right hand really lightly muted back here, and I'm going to control that dynamic between loud and soft. We're going to do a little bit of this triplet rhythm, so let's just talk about that for a second. I've had some of this in some of my other video lessons as well. I like to pull my finger in, so I bend my thumb a little bit, or my thumb knuckle comes up there so the pick bends a little bit. I cross at an angle, and I can control the palm muting from that side of it. If we have triplets like that, a lot of times we'll get into doing riffs, and there's so much cool stuff in E, that you can do. Just off of like that basic kind of pentatonic outline. You can do a lot of chromatic stuff. That's going to be a good way to get us started. So I'm just going to work up 3 notes here, chromatic 5, 6, and 7, and I'm going to throw in that gallop behind it just to get nice and loose. Now, here's where the lesson part's going to kick in. If you typically might think of a cool way to add one note. But intervals are so great because in metal, you can get some of these kind of dark sounds with it. And we're in standard tuning. A lot of times today people are playing in drop tunings. This is a good way, I can also say, and I should have said maybe at the beginning, a good way to make a standard tune heavy metal riff sound bigger than it might intentionally come off, like almost like a detuned riff. Make it sound heavier in a standard tuning. And you're kind of, you got a lot of skill going on here in the sense that I'm doing a quick triplet, I'm jumping to an interval, and that's always really useful to do. But how can I make this single note line another dark sounding interval? You get a minor third. I mean, that's really disgusting and beautiful all at the same time. So whereas you might be writing a riff and you might think to yourself, okay, I have this kind of a feel, how can I darken that up a little bit? And these interval shapes are really, really useful and helpful in creating your own kind of sound. So those kind of intervals can be really, really helpful in creating some darker sounds as you play through your riff. Another one right there where I might take that same thing on a lower octave and now I get this. And this. You get some cool sounds in there. And I'm just kind of loosely playing some of these examples, some different rhythms. Let's try that one a little bit. So that was, and slowly definitely keep in mind, these things might not sound like the greatest thing, but when you get them moving, this is another one that we can do right there. Really cool stretch. And you get into that kind of a little walk up there. So let me play this slow. Or again. All this neat little tension that can happen within playing a riff. And to go back to thinking maybe what this could be made up from, really quick, just really simple, is some of this kind of play that you typically would do, you know, with these kind of power chords. And you're just spicing up those power chords with some different kind of intervals. And that's a really fun way to go through things. I think that's pretty important. Before we get to the solo bits, let me just mention one thing that I think is kind of cool too. And we've seen this in some of the videos that might be put out. But the way to move down to lower strings by bringing in these power chords being played with two different fingers. And now in the studio, I gotta say, these are things that I think of whenever I'm recording for somebody, because you want to make sure that you don't have any string noise between chord changes, and it works great for those kind of situations. So I think those are really good things to practice as well. And you'll be, you know, curious to find out where that comes up in your playing, where it's good to use that maybe instead of jumping all the way over here like that. I think that's a pretty useful tool. If you look below in that text box, there's a really nice link down there. And if you click on that link, you're going to get a free lesson that's not available on YouTube, a coinciding ebook that has all kinds of great scales and chord diagrams. And remember, this is free content. It helps you keep in touch with the website. All you got to do is just click on it, get involved, share your thoughts with us. We just want to make things better for you, and it's a way to get some cool stuff that's not available on YouTube. Okay, so let's talk about some lead work here. We're going to work out a pentatonic, mindset here. We're going to throw in some of these notes here, though. And this is going to be our first lick. So we can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to pick with a downstroke, then an upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, and pull off. I can take it into this one. Ooh, I saved it. I thought I was going to lose it there at the end, everybody. I wasn't sure. Okay, so that lick right here, really simple in concept. I'm going to turn this way so you can see how much muting's going on with my right hand. You get 1, 2, 3, and then I'm pulling straight off. I have a minor third between my first finger and my third finger, and then a whole step here between my third finger and my pinky. That's going to shift up evenly. That one was a little bit better. So that's a cool lick to do. You know, if you have a wah-wah or something like that going, that's pretty fun to do. And if we have... you can kind of mess around with that. You know, it's funny, there's some quirky bluesy-ish, is that a word? Oh my gosh. Blues type things that they can do, maybe I can say that better, that are in this situation, like... Those are kind of fun to mess around with. They're, you know, slippery, you know, for lack of a better way of saying that. You get this kind of, that blues note in there. And it's interesting because you have two of the same note popping up and you got that flat 5. So it sounds kind of, you know, weird at first. Same approach to that. And you see how I just kind of plugged in those notes in the middle. Interesting use of some of these licks here. That's a little bit different where I'm going to do more of a legato approach. We'll say that here and we'll round it out. So if I start here with a pick stroke, up stroke, that's a down into an up. And I'm going to hammer on and pull off. Maybe go into the picking. Throw this guy in there. And some fun little licks that are in the style of that player. So go to the website, everybody, nextlevelguitar.com. All the hits and more. A fun interpretation of a fantastic guitar player that's done some pretty notable things. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you there, and thank you so much.